Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital Today's podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, this is episode 181, I believe it is.
I'm still recovering from the darts episode.
It is. If you're new to the show, we talk about tabletop gaming, PC, sports simulation gaming, all kinds of things like that. And Ron, in a couple months, we're going to be wrapping up 4 years of the Digital Today show.
Unbelievable.
And we will be starting year 5 at some point this summer. So, yeah, It's been a long road, and we continue soldiering on. We'd like to thank everybody that supported us and been listening in for the last 4 years. Now, tonight, Ron, we have a very special episode. We don't have one guest. We have 2 guests.
We don't usually have 2, especially when we go live.
Yeah, we have 2 guests. We are live on YouTube tonight recording this. So we're going to get a lot of live YouTube comments and questions in as well. And, Ron, I believe we rolled a 6-6 tonight. Do you think we did?
Yes, I believe so. We've got 2 Hall of Famers with us.
Yes, we have 2 APPA Hall of Famers with us here. First, no stranger to the show is Gilles Thibault. Thibault, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. It's great to be back. And Ron, I'm always honored to be with you guys. You guys are the Pied Pipers of the community. So,
all right, thanks for coming back on. And our second guest, it's his first time here on the show, so we will be gentle, okay? His camera is not working tonight. He said he's in some kind of a witness protection program, so if you're watching live tonight, he is here, but he's behind the camera.
You know what, Dave? He's in Glen Head, New York tonight.
Oh, no. He is not. Anyway, from APPA, we have John Herson. John, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. And remember, just be gentle, okay?
All righty. So what we got tonight here is we got a bunch of questions for myself and Ron. We have some questions from our Patreon supporters. We have some questions from Facebook, and obviously we're going to have some questions here from the chat room, which is lively already. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Before we get going, though, John, we do have one question that we asked all the guests to come on the show, and that question is, if you could go back in time and attend any sporting event, what would that be?
The 72 Miracle on Ice at Lake Placid. The Friday night game against the Russians.
The 80 Miracle on Ice?
80 Miracle of Ice, yes. Thank you, Ron. I'm dyslexic with numbers, you'll find out. But,
that we've had a couple people say that, the Russian game. Yep, that's been a big hit here. All right, cool. So that is the one he would go to. Now, Thibault, we have a different question for you because we've already asked you this question. So we know we don't want you cheating and cheating off of John's paper, okay? Your question is, if you could go back in time and change the results of any sporting event, what would that be?
The results. Oh, my goodness. That's such a good one. The results of a sporting event. It's like one event or a series? I guess is one event.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be maybe a series-changing game or something like that or whatever. But if you got a game in mind, oh, man, I wish my team had won that game. I would have.
You're not rooting for the Soviets in 80, were you?
You know what? I'm going to go with a series like that. Cup run of the Canadians a couple years ago got me at my heart. It was just, I was such a 93. We waited so long, to get to that point. And it was such a fluke. Everybody knew they were going to lose. It was just, but if they would have pulled that off, I would have drove the 12 hours of Montreal to party. So.
Here, look at my shirt.
Oh, Montreal
Awesome.
Canadians. Oh, thank you, Ron. Thank you so much for bringing the show down. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. All righty. So let's turn our attention back to John here. John, what was some of your early gaming experiences? Like, what got you into gaming, and how did you start gaming?
the Christmas of '62, one of my grandmothers gave me for Christmas the APBA baseball game, and that had the 61 season cards. So I had Mantle and Maris. And I had asked for it because I'd seen the ads and sent away for the sample card in the brochure, and then did it for football and golf later on. And those just kind of captivated, at least they captivated me. in a way. I was living in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where we had one network channel on our television. The local newspaper carried the Cubs and the Tigers box scores. Back then, Sunday morning sports section had the big stats with batting average, the batting and the ERA. And then on Tuesday, it was like the top 5 in various categories. And so it was really hard to, get baseball. Unlike today, we can get it whatever. Right. And so APBA took the place of that. And then every year, my grandmother, until she passed, ordered the current season set. But there's some years I didn't play. I mean, there are a lot of folks in the APBA community that have a lot more experience playing APBA than I do.
So who'd you root for growing up, the Cubs or the Tigers?
The Yankees. Bobby Richardson was my guy.
Okay.
The Yankees was my dad's team, but Bobby Richardson was my guy.
Good choice.
Okay, so you're playing a little bit of games here. What got you involved with APBA? Give a little history about APBA and yourself.
There are times where I feel like the dog who caught the car.
Okay.
I've always wondered when I saw a dog chase a car, what the hell are you going to do with it once you catch it? I was in the large corporate world, and it wasn't as much fun as it used to be. And our youngest son was going from middle school to high school, and wasn't doing serious stuff, but was doing some stupid stuff his other siblings hadn't done. Our oldest son was doing a tour of Afghanistan.
Oof.
And my wife suffers chronic migraines, but they're now up to 20 days a month. So I really had to get out of the large corporate world, and I needed something to do. I wasn't just going to retire. I wasn't going to golf all day. Golf game is horrible. And I heard that APBA was looking for capital, talked to him several times off and on. This took about 8 years before the deal went through. But it wasn't to play APBA every day, and we don't. Thibault's probably played more games of APBA in the office than I have. But it was, business. It had some opportunities on the computer side, internet. There's just a lot of things that can or could have been done with it. And that's what I found attractive is how do we keep our DNA, the rounded corners, the card and dice games, which we'll always offer forever, improve the quality of the packaging, et cetera, which we've done, to become the Tiffany of this business sector. And what I mean by that is when you bring that blue box home and you give it to your wife, she knows there's something special in there. It's going to be really good. And she's really happy. And about 12 hours later, she'll start thinking, well, what did you do that you had to do that? But it's just to be the standard that, if it's APBA, it's going to be high quality. It's going to be accurate. It's going to be playable. And that's what we've been striving to do ever since then. And, cards and dice will always offer. So that's a long-winded answer.
Okay. Let me see here. A couple of questions we got for you here. I think it'd be fun for me to tell you my APBA story here, how I get involved.
All right, thank you.
It was Ron, actually, who was the one because, I'm kind of fairly new to cards and dice and stuff probably the last few years. And Ron's like, I was talking to him. He's like, Dave, I think the game for you would be APPA baseball, APPA basic baseball. He goes, you're a casual baseball fan. They got a bunch of seasons, and it's real fun and real easy to play. And I said, okay. And then he said, you might even want to try the hockey game. Well, lo and behold, there's this guy named Thibault, right? And there's this guy who's in the chat room named APPA Chatter, who contacted me, and they sent me an old version of the baseball, hockey, and I think, Thibault, you might have sent me a couple football teams too, I think.
Yeah.
So they sent me some of their older games for me to play. And I started playing these, and I was like, wow, Ron was exactly right. The baseball really hit the sweet spot for me.
Once in a while I am.
Yes, you are. And
well, thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
And APPA Chatter, who's the baseball guy, he sent me the hockey game, which is strange. I figured he would send me the baseball game. He sent me the hockey game. And next thing you know, I'm playing that, and that was a lot of fun. But when I was watching other people play on YouTube, I was like, wait a sec, I don't have that chart, and I don't have this chart. So what I did is I ordered fresh copies of baseball and hockey with a couple of seasons. So now I had the most up-to-date version of it. And once I got those in, it really clicked for me, and I had a blast. I don't know if you can see behind me over here, but this is all APPA hockey seasons. Good. I went crazy. So I ordered a ton of stuff. So it was thanks to Thibault and APPA Chatter that said, look, Dave, I think you're going to like this. Let me send you something here so at least you can try it out. I tried it out, loved it, and since then I've just, boom, I recently bought a bunch of baseball because I've been enjoying the baseball quite a bit. But that's kind of how I got started. It was Ron suggesting it, and then Thibault and APPA Chatter, who's like, yeah, Dave, I think you're really going to like this. And so that's been my history with APPA, and I continue to play, and I really, really enjoy it. So that's kind of my history with it. So I guess I got to thank Thibault and thanks to APPA Chatter for setting me up with that. So that's kind of how.
APPA Chatter?
Steve.
Festus.
Oh, Steve Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good guy. Really good guy.
He's on with the chat right now too with us, John.
I didn't know that. I take that back. No.
So I'll just put up a couple of quick chats here.
So John, how did the deal with Cooperstown come together? How did you guys be able to pull off?
I had nothing to do with that, to be honest. Jeff Giordano had done something similar with the Football Hall of Fame 6 or 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know it was happening, and I got contacted by Drew Taylor of the Hall of Fame to see if we could ship them some games that they would have the next Friday when before the tournament started. Mm-hmm. We used to be in the Hall of Fame probably a decade ago. One of the things I've learned is that you're either an APBA guy or a Strat guy.
Right.
And the two will never get along. And like at USA Today Sports, it used to be that the Strat guys wouldn't let you run an APBA story without including Strat and vice versa. And then all the APBA guys left, so that no longer applies, which is fine. But that's what was going on at the Hall of Fame, was that the one of the senior folks there was a big Strat guy. First time I met him, I was at the hall, and I got the white glove treatment where they take you behind, so you can hold the bats of whoever and whatnot, which is really cool. Really nice of them. And then they take me to this guy's office, and the chair he tells me to sit down in, I got to pick up 3 Stratomatic Cooperstown games to put them someplace else so I can sit down. So I knew where this was headed, so that's just, it's just unique that's, kind of the dynamics of this industry.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right, a couple of questions here. To talk about the APPA, the weekly APPA newsletter that goes out, and some of the other marketing that you do for the company.
We try to have new product every Tuesday.
Okay.
And lately, I am sure folks are complaining it's all college football, but that's the season's wrapping up. we're redoing the 87 baseball season to card every player.
Okay.
And that should be done by the end of May. The 2022-23 NHL set, we've already got about a third of it done, and that will be available at the convention at the end of June. The newsletter is just, this is, I've learned that APBA is more than a game, it's a community. And it's a way to reach out to the community. And especially with, there's a very robust schedule of tournaments. So if you look at the heading of the newsletter, it'll congratulate whoever won the most recent tournament, and then it'll announce new product. And so it's kind of a way to get people thinking, hey, maybe I'll try a tournament. They all think, oh, I'm not a good enough player. That's got nothing to do with it. It's really the friendship. And what I try to do is have some interesting comments initially, or in some cases, pithy comments. Next week, I'm going to write about New Jersey Little League rules, where if they toss a parent out of the park, you got to ump 3 games before you can get back in. I think that's
That's great.
That's a great rule.
That's an awesome rule.
Starting next week, we'll focus more on the convention. We finally have all the pricing in place, so we can determine a price for it and put it in the store. And then we go back and forth depending upon what's going on. We haven't done it for a while, is welcome to the community. Anybody that's ordered for the first time, we put their name and where they live. And other members can send us to customer support an email if they want to reach one of them. In this day and age, you can't be giving out people's email addresses. Right. And that's work. Guys and gals have joined leagues or just met folks to hang out and talk APBA or go to lunch or liquid refreshments. The last 2/3 of the newsletter, and that Randy Courier deserves all the credit for that. Randy has been doing for 4 years now, been the tournament director. So he gathers all the information from the tournament directors, either schedules or what happened in the most recent tournaments, and then he has league openings. And then we always have what's new. And, listing the new products that we've introduced in the store that week with links to order it and or where to find the lineup sheet or the roster sheet. It's just a way to stay in touch with the community. We have occasionally I'll ask a question, and some of the answers we get are very interesting. But that's part of it. It's a passionate fan base. But the main idea is just to reinforce the idea of community and let people know what's going on.
John, walk us through how a card set is made. Baseball season, for instance, ends, on a Wednesday or whenever everyone plays. How long before the set's ready? What needs to be done to get that ready for both the basic and the master?
Well, I have a Chinese wall between baseball card making and myself.
Okay.
I know how to make them, but when you got a 3-person team with Skeet Car, you don't need John Herson.
Right.
Skeet starts picking the top 30 players. By mid-September, he's got that list. It's not finalized because it depends upon what might happen during the remainder of the season, or more particular in the playoffs. Kyle Schwarber, when he had, the playoffs the year the Cubs won the World Series,
right,
he did not have enough at-bats to go into the base set. And we talked about doing it, and instead what we did is that the World Series set for the Cubs for that year and the game set for that year, which included the 2 World Series teams and the 2 second place teams in the National American League. We added Schwarber to that set, so it's 31 cards, because people would have expected to see that.
Right.
And it did fit our criteria, and we thought, it's going to be too hard to explain. And we got a lot of first-time buyers from Chicago area.
I'm sure.
So we didn't want them to go, where's Schwarber? The first step is Skeet gathers a lot of information for each team. And after that information is gathered and proofed, it's sent on to Mr. 2, who then creates the cards.
Okay.
And after that, then we go through the exception report. And there's probably 300 to 400 exceptions for a 900 card set. So, those have to go through, be resolved. And then Mr. 2 puts it into a BBW file.
All right.
And runs sims, many sims, just to see what outliers there might be. And then after that, Mr. 3 puts together some information, formats some files for us, formats the card file we send to the printer. Excuse me. And the goal for that is to have it done by Thanksgiving, because we then make the 2023 season for APPA Go, our internet game.
Right.
The target is to have that available by Thanksgiving.
That's a pretty tight fit. Yeah, 3 weeks.
And then we don't touch the cards for 3 weeks. And really part of getting the file to the APPA Go community early is to use them as proof folks. Okay. 3 people, more eyeballs, and especially guys in draft leagues that have, their backup catcher, maybe only 30 people care about. If we've made a mistake, they're going to find it and they'll let us know.
Yep.
And then it's always, fans will say, why don't you have the cards ready for Christmas? And that's just fraught with risk and upset customers. And, you've got a printer who's, has people that are on vacation. Usually it's their better folks that are on vacation. So there's a quality control issue there. The other thing is there are going to be people disappointed that they didn't get their cards set for Christmas. And that's just going to happen between the volume, UPS, USPS, APBA, the printer. It's just not going to work. More people are going to be unhappy than happy. So that's why we double proof it. After we approve the base set and the XC set, then we can start pulling out the cards to make the files for the game set. And come January, we're ready to go. The envelope sets have been sorted. We do that in-house. And we have what I call a SWAT team. Couple of couples that join us, and they just do it to get spending money to go to Florida for the rest of the winter. And sometimes I never see them. I think they're vampires because it seems like they always do it at night. But they've been doing this now for 7 or 8 years, so they know the drill. They don't need any, supervision or anything. And then after the cards are done, then we do BBW, the files and/or the CD for those who want CDs. And the timing of that, frankly, is the SWAT team's only going to be here for a couple of weeks, and then they're moving on, regardless. So that's how it works. Typically, it's 90 days for a set, especially the larger sets of 900 cards plus XCs. And that's if there's no issues. The 2022 season with some of the rule changes created a lot of issues making the cards. And Otani creates issues with BBW.
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah.
Because of, BBW was designed with 9 positions. And DH was not one of them. And, there's millions and millions and millions of lines of code. And we've come up with the idea of making a second one and cloning him and changing his name, adding an initial or something, and that seems to be working. But that's this past year we were later than usual, and it was because of some of the changes, the universal DH, and just the volume of players that play.
Yeah, I think the changes affected a lot of baseball games because of what we've been hearing. So
yeah,
that would make sense. John, one thing you said about you going back to was 87 and you're going to have everybody carded in that season. I know that, when I have the choice of a season with everyone or a season not with everyone, I tend to lean towards the season with everyone. How important do you think that is to have everyone carded in a season?
Well, the replayers want that. And, when I bought the company, APBA was already offering that. So we really there was no choice. There's never any thought about not going forward, carding all the players. And we go back to 54, and there's 4 or 5 seasons that we still have to do from the late 80s and early 90s. And then the 75 season, while we've carded every player, it's with the old single factor master symbols platoon factor. So we're going to redo that set. And we have to redo it completely. We're not going back past 54. It's just the older seasons really do not sell very well. Okay. If it wasn't the fact that there's only 3 seasons we had not done in the 20th century, we would not have gone back and done the OAT seasons. Those have not sold well at all.
Okay.
So,
Thibault, let me get you involved here. How important is it to you when you look at a season that you're going to buy, or maybe you already have? Is it important to you to have everybody carded?
Yeah, most definitely is, Dave. I've done a couple really long replays with just the 30 cards, and it gets to be from a replayer's point of view, it's a challenge. You're not at that point. You're not doing a replay. You're doing almost like what our friend Jim Shea calls a sim. Like you're simulating that season, and whereas like if a guy maybe who's not carded, you have to actually find someone to start for him. And some guys, I remember, I think in like 2006 replay, some guy had like 150 at bats and wasn't carded, and so you got to find someone to throw in there. And it's more if you're okay with the simming, that's good. But if you really want a hard like a real replay has played, you got to have all the cards. And I'm grateful for John doing that.
Yeah,
and the challenge is, or our fear is the price.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that XC is in many years more players than that than in a full season for the older seasons. So.
Yeah, the modern seasons are very big. Because I've looked at some of those. I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of players.
Yep.
Yeah, so I get that too. John, how important is it to have? When I go to the APBA website and I look to get baseball or hockey, boy, there's a ton of seasons and they're in stock. How important is it to you to make sure that stuff is in stock?
It's very important. One of the reasons why APBA is down here in Alpharetta, Georgia, is I owned the company before when it was in Lancaster. And we just had to change the business model. It was the business model in Lancaster was to have staff to cover the busy season, but then the rest of the year there wasn't enough work for them, to be honest. But back then, our print model was we'd have to order thousands and thousands of seasons at once. And with today's technology and just-in-time printing, that didn't make sense. Because when APBA moved down here, we offered 31 seasons of baseball. And we were printing in-house the XCs, all the football sets, the golf cards, the hockey cards, and the soccer cards. And I kept asking the guys in Lancaster, you got Philadelphia, Baltimore, Delaware, you got all these printing hotspots. There's got to be a way to get smaller quantities. And I was golfing out here north of here where you can hear the banjos. It's Deliverance country. My wife put me in this charity shotgun. And one of the guys in our foursome, you're with somebody for 6 hours, you're going to yak. He had no front teeth, was chewing tobacco. He could spit that 20 feet through those teeth. And, so the initial impression is he can play a banjo too. Well, we got yakking, and he was in the printer business. And he said, how about I meet you at your office Monday and I'll see what I can do. So I show up Monday wearing a golf shirt and shorts, which I wore Saturday, and he's in a suit, a really nice suit. But more importantly, he has teeth. I didn't recognize him at first. And he explained to me that he lost his teeth playing high school hockey in Minnesota, and that the only time he chews is on the golf course. And it was so hard to clean his teeth after chewing with him, he just took them out. And I said, here's what I need. I showed him the files that we would send to the printer and what we needed back. And he said, I'll buy you lunch Friday and I'll have some proposals. And he showed up Friday, again, a nice suit, and he had 3 different proposals from 3 different printers. And, we went and talked to him, and, we still are, for the most part, pleased with the printer we selected. I called the guys in Lancaster, and I think it was Verl I talked to. And I told him I found a printer down here that could do what we wanted. And he said, you ship the cards up here? And I realized that didn't make any sense. But the model now is we have to order in quantities of 20. And I placed my order Wednesday noon. And we get our delivery Tuesday morning. So there are times, depending upon, if you order something on a Friday and we happen to be out, you would not necessarily, you'd have to wait 2 weeks. And that's the longest it should be that you need to wait. And it's worked really well. But whatever we're out of Wednesday or even down to 1 or 2 of, especially if it's something popular, we order then. And now we have 120 plus seasons of baseball. And that gave us, this new printing model made me comfortable to going to printing the master symbols on the baseball cards.
Okay.
Instead of offering 2 different sets or offering sheets. And the other thing it did is it allows us to print everything out. Nothing is printed, no cards are printed in-house. They're all printed by a commercial printer. Mm-hmm. No more perforated sheets where you tear a corner and you rip your card or whatever. So that's been a big change for us, and it's allowed us to keep our costs down. Inventory is the worst thing to have. It's just money sitting there wasting, and we don't need that. And if we had to have thousands and thousands of sets for each season, my warehouse isn't big enough.
Okay. When it comes to seasons, Thibault, do you have any advice on storing seasons and organizing seasons?
Get a bigger house. You'll need a bigger boat.
John, I don't know if you ever saw Thibault's video on his seasons that he has at his place over there. It is, my OCD went through the roof. I had to take a shower after I saw the video. It's just, nothing was organized.
Look that up. We have several customers that I'm aware of that have off-site storage, air-conditioned off-site storage.
John, what general era sells best? You said that things obviously sell better than others. How do modern sets sell? Is there a retro era that does really well?
The that retro era is changing because the fellows that grew up in that age are now older.
Right.
When I first took over the company.
What year was that?
2006.
Okay.
Actually, Monday is the anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Nice.
Well, the only way I know it is my youngest son's birthday. Back then, it was the say 51 forward to mid 60s. Okay. And now that's moved back. That's more late 60s, 70s, early 80s. But the 1908 season, the 27 season, the 41 season, the year, the year escapes me right now, but Robinson's first year, his rookie year.
47.
47, thank you. 75, I think it's because of the World Series that year. 72 is a big seller. 67 because of the Great Pennant Race. Going forward, it's really, I think it's just too recent that for people to get that nostalgic feeling. They're just not old enough to look back at the good old days.
Do you find, especially with the newer seasons, when a specific team has a great season, whether they win it all or they surprise everybody and get to the finals or the World Series, what is? Do you see an upsurge in that area buying a season?
Yes, definitely.
You mentioned that with the Cubs in 16.
Yes.
That's kind of funny. Well, if the Bruins win it all this year, I'll be ordering the new set.
I'm pulling for them tomorrow night. I think
we're disappointed up here. We really are. But, we're going to hang a banner in the rafters. Best regular season ever.
Is it a matchup issue or guys hurt or?
Don't know.
Not goalie?
They were up 3-1, and they just kind of haven't done anything since. They let them back in. I want to talk about APPA Go. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I played a little bit of APPA Go, and I had some fun with it. I like the fact that the cards come up. You can see the cards. You can see the results. You can even roll your own dice, I believe, in APPA Go.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What can you do in APPA Go? Because I tried to play that, and I was trying to figure out, could I play a whole season? Will it sim the other games, or is it just my team? What does APPA Go actually do?
Yeah, I mean, APPA Go is, and I'll give this caveat, is people compare it to BBW, which is a fine product we're very proud of. BBW took 25 years of development to get to the stage it got to. APPA Go does not have league manager or where the computer managers can do the sim. It has a stat keeping program, which also has a career stat feature in it that BBW doesn't have. The biggest advantage of APPA Go is my card and dice guys love the idea they can enter the dice roll. So they still get that sound of rolling the dice in the cup and hear it roll out. Mm-hmm. And those guys will take their cards and look through the deck to make their decisions or substitutions and then go to the screen to highlight, how to make the change in the game. So they're basically using APPA Go as a stat program. They're playing the game, but it's automatically keeping your stats for you. The development of Go has been slow, to say the least. We've thrown some more resources at it. We're getting there. We're making progress. We're working on Sims right now, and we hope to have something around July 1st. The biggest advantage of APPA Go is all these silly rule changes baseball's making. We can make those in 48 hours.
Okay.
Just because how it's set up, and it's just more flexibility for it. And then I get emails every week from guys, grandfathers, fathers, sons, daughters, wives, brothers, that have reconnected because of APPA Go.
Oh, wow.
And it's all part of that community where the depth and breadth of friendships created by these games is just, that's the secret sauce.
Thibault, you want to add to that? I mean, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, just to add on, like what he said about the community part. I just remember Steve Ryan and I actually. There's a chat feature in Go too. So, like, if you have like Steve's in Tennessee, I'm in Pittsburgh. We were just playing some random game. We were just having a full conversation on the chat while we were just rolling dice, just like we'd be sitting in Atlanta rolling.
So if you do really that, nice. do you both have to have that season in APPA Go? How does that work?
You need your team. You need the team you're managing.
Right.
You don't need both teams. And APPA Go, you can buy single teams.
Okay.
Unlike cards and dice, and that's an inventory issue. So you can buy single teams. You can draft your own team from whatever files, whatever seasons you own, and create leagues. We have leagues. Thibault, have you ever played in a league?
Yeah, I'm in one right now. We're not in the APPA Go league, but I've heard of them.
Yeah. So, and there are some guys that just swear by it.
Now, that's APPA Go. Is that a monthly fee? Is it to play that? Is that how that goes?
You have two choices. You can subscribe for $20 a month, and then you get access to everything.
Okay.
So whenever we come out with a manager, a new module, a new feature, you automatically get that. You have access to that. Or you can buy single teams. You can buy seasons. And when you buy something, you have access to that forever. You own the access to that.
Okay.
If you're a subscriber, once you decide to cancel your subscription, you no longer will have access to the files.
Okay, so if I were to buy 1978 without a subscription, I could play 1978.
Yeah, you can play as many times as you want for however many years you want.
Okay. Hey, I got a question, John, about shipping. Okay, now I see that you guys charge us whatever the shipping rate is, right? Mm-hmm. What I tend to do, and this is kind of not an APPA thing as it is just kind of a general shipping thing, it seems like the first season is going to be the most expensive to ship. And then if you add a second season, it's not going to double the shipping cost. You know what I mean? It might add a couple of dollars. So am I correct to make that if I want to maximize my order around the shipping cost, that if I order 2 seasons, it's better off than ordering 1 and then later off ordering 1?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I want to
go back to the Go for a sec. Are there plans, John, for a football Go?
First, Ron, we have to get more robust managers and the master game as part of APPA Go Baseball. We have started, excuse me, allergies down here. It's great. For football to succeed, we have to have very robust coaches.
Okay.
And we've got several people that are already working on that part of it. So we haven't gotten to the programming or the game development. We are working on what's going to be the key to success, our robust football coaches.
Okay.
But eventually, we want all the games to be on Go.
Okay.
Okay. Question here from Bernie in the chat room. Will APPA Go ever have season schedules added? So I'm thinking he might want to play a full season with one team.
Only if somehow we can import them from BBW, but they're 2 different languages. You know, the transactions and the schedules, there's so many areas, so many different websites where you can get that information for free now that we just couldn't compete offering it, for sale. And it takes a lot of manpower to keep track of all of that. And so we couldn't give it away.
Okay. I'm just thinking, like I say, because if I were to, buy a season, I'd like, I could just sit there and just, play one game and then it goes right to the next, and I could play a whole season on APPA.
We don't have, that's all part of the league manager that we have to get a handle on.
Okay. Yep. Okay. The BBW, now that's baseball for Windows, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now that has now recently become a download, right?
You have your choice. With new computers not having CD drives, we had to do something. We started with the BBW game download, and probably in the next 2 weeks, we are going to add to the store downloads of every season every manager and every stadium that we offer for BBW. And eventually we will phase out of offering the CDs, except for probably any new seasons we offer, just because we have some guys that aren't going to be comfortable trying to, download a file. So we'll do it for that. But yeah, it's we've been slow on that. We've had some, but we finally found a guy who knew how to do it, had the time to do it, and he's pulled it off. He's been great.
Okay. All right, we got a couple of hard-hitting questions for you now. All righty? So we're done with the softballs. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here.
All right.
All righty. A couple questions from myself and even from the community here. Why is it APPA does not have any sales?
That's because it's the theory, the policy is the same price every day. I used to be involved in minor league baseball when we lived in Wisconsin. I was one of the officers of Wisconsin Timber Rattlers and low A team, and we would get half of our attendance, season attendance, in 10 beer nights, where the game was free. We sold a lot of beer. The other 60 nights, nobody went because they were used to free nights. So that's the same thing. I mean, I understand why Fritz did the sales. He was running it out of space in the warehouse. Literally, he had to do something. I don't have that problem because of this printing model. But I don't want – it's a slippery slope. Once, we've had people made many large orders. And most of them have never asked for a discount. And then someone else will come in and want to order a couple of things and ask for the discount. And if I was that customer that's had the larger one, didn't get it, I'd be angry at Apple.
Oh, yeah. No, I hear that.
So this way, there's no exceptions. The price is the same every day, year round. So you don't have to wait for a sale or think, dang it,
Yeah. I just ask because myself personally and other people in the community, when we do our show and we talk, when someone has a sale, even if it's a 10% sale, right, even if it's just for a weekend, whatever, I tend to that's a big deal. Just 10%. I know it's not a ton of money, but mentally, I'm thinking, I'm gonna grab a couple of seasons. I have so many seasons and so many games and PDFs of all these different games that I grab on sale because I think someday I'm going to play that. So I tend to stock up on a sale myself. Yeah. That's just kind of what I do. And I see your point with that. But just from a consumer point of view, I will buy when something's on sale. I will buy a lot of it because I just stock up on that set on that.
Yeah, I understand that. The other thing is our margins are really thin, so we don't have room to offer to really do sales. And this way, you don't have to remember now. What did I do for this guy? 5 sets at $80 a piece, or was it 5 sets of 70 or 60? You just have to start keeping track of the exceptions. Who do you give a discount to? Who you don't do it? It's easier for us to just have the policy of no sales.
John, any chance of PDFs or no?
No. It goes back to the blue box. I mean, I take a great deal in pride of how we've improved the quality of the product components.
Oh, yes.
That crappy game box we used to have. I'm still embarrassed to think about it. And PDFs is a step back. And when I get half the requests for PDFs are they want you to print it. They want the file, but they also want you to print it. That's more expensive to print those on my printer in the office instead of printing the card sets.
Right.
So it's the blue box. We want to be the best. We want to be the most playable, the most realistic, and have the best quality.
Well, what about people who want to buy from Canada? Because the shipping to Canada is through the roof.
Or the
no,
United Kingdom, fault of yours or any other companies, but
but.
I just ask because my self personally, and other people in the community, when we do our show and we talk, when someone has a sale, even if it's a 10% sale, I will buy a lot of it because I just stock up on a sale myself.
Yeah, Again, it gets back to Ron doing exceptions. I mean,
Right.
that was one of the big drivers with going to downloads for BBW, besides current computers not having CD drives, was for our international customers that we could avoid that shipping. Because, it's $40, $45.
Yeah.
And the Canadian custom people are getting more snarky about holding them up, inspecting the packages, because anything under $300 is exempt from any custom duties. But we've had a couple horror tales with customers where they didn't believe the value. The customs people and impose duties on them. It is an issue.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, can I share a funny story about going through customs and with APPA cards?
Okay.
Going through Atlanta customs back to Pittsburgh. Okay, us APPA fans, we love our cards. The cards are pristine. I mean, guys are putting them in plastic. They put them on a shelf. They put them in boxes, airtight. So last year I go through, and you would appreciate this season, actually, Dave. I'm going back home to Pittsburgh from the convention. And every year I buy, a bunch of APPA stuff because you're a kid in a candy store when you go down to Atlanta for the convention. It's just a great experience, John. You take your order there. They go back, they bring it out in a big box. This is like right hot off the oven. Got these great sets.
Are we going to be sniffing mimeographs at the end of this story, Neil?
So if you notice, the APPA boxes kind of look almost like bricks of cocaine.
Way to get demonetized on this one already. Thanks for playing.
And every year, the inspectors, when you go through, because I do carry on because I don't want to wait up in Pittsburgh. So I bring I put the bricks of APPA cards through the machine, and so they say, okay, pull that guy's bag over. We're gonna go through the whole thing. So this is all my APPA cards. All right. They pulled out a knife. They opened up my APPA cards. They took my 70-71 hockey season, Dave. The 70-71, the Bruins season.
Yes, that's one of my favorite seasons.
Brand spanking new. That guy was ripping the cards, throwing them back in my bag, getting wrinkled. Jam the thing. I had just bought these from John, like brand spanking new.
Didn't you tell him the Canadians won the cup that year?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
You're dealing with TSA down here in Atlanta.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to do with Canada. This has to do with Atlanta customs.
Yeah.
I went over. I had my shoes off. You have to take your shoes off. I was over like my little bench, almost in tears. It's like this guy just totally the word for it, like degraded my APPA cards like right in front of me, and I couldn't do a thing about it.
What I do when I fly, I haven't flown in a while, but if I have anything, I open everything up and just it's right there to see. I don't put anything in a bag. It's like anything I think, because I used to do a lot of broadcasting, so I would take cameras and wires and microphones, and so if they looked at it, they're going to see a whole bunch of wires. They're going to think it's an explosive device. Yeah. So I open it up and just throw everything on the bed so I could see. It's all just cameras and wires, and so yeah. Maybe next time it's like open it up and say, look, it's cards. It's cards.
I had to share that because you're talking about that.
If you got a minute for a quick story about. In the large corporate world, I did a lot of international travel. So one early morning, we're flying into Mexico City, and the guy next to me on the plane was an engineer for the company, and he says, "Do not get behind me in line for customs here."
Ooh.
Well, now you got to get behind him in line, right? So he throws his suitcase up, he unzips it. He has a suitcase full of tampons, not in the box, single tampons. And this poor kid is looking all around, and he's waiting for a woman to show up at some point. And finally, he says to the guy, "Whose are these?" He goes, "Mine." And he zips up the suitcase and he lets them go. Unbeknownst to the customs people, and each tampon was a switch that was needed to complete construction of a new mill they were building. And the first load of switches were hung up still in El Paso. And this guy took it upon himself to get them to the site.
Oh, wow. How do you explain that?
Some serious ingenuity, right?
Yes.
All right, getting back to the tough questions here. Let's talk about the APPA customer service. Now, you got rid of the phone number, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and so you have the email. Now, just to be quite honest here, I've emailed a couple of times. I think one time, my original hockey order was damaged in shipping, and I emailed, and you got right back to me and said, send me a picture. So I sent a picture, and then you just sent the whole order out again. And a couple times I was missing an envelope, and 2 days later I get the envelope in the mail. So talk about that. So it's email only, and you might not respond, but you read them all. Was that what I hear?
Yeah. Why we shut down the phone, basically, we were having issues where someone would call in and say, order a baseball game. We would ship the baseball game, and then when they go, no, I ordered a football game. So then we started having two people on phone orders, but we were still getting that issue. Or they want a baseball season instead of football cards or what have you. And it was just like, well, the only way to do this is to just go all by email. Then it's documented. So it's, then you get a chance to look at what you wrote. Oh, I didn't mean football. I meant baseball, whatever. I know some people are disappointed about not having phone. Part of that is, back in the day when we were in Lancaster, people would call and talk to Verl forever because he had the time to do it outside the busy season. And, we're staffed the opposite way. So I miss the personal touch. I miss the calls, to be honest. But it really it's like eliminating pre-orders. Going to email has reduced those times where, they go, well, you sent me the wrong thing. And now there's documentation for it. Customer support, we read every email. One of the things I'm guilty of, and I need to do better, is let's say you send me an email and you're missing envelopes. I grab an envelope. If your address is on the email, that's fantastic. I address the envelope, go out, pick up the envelopes, shove them in the envelope, pull the tape shut, and take it out to shipping. And, we're trying to do better saying, okay, it's coming. Because people, they think we just haven't, responded to it, but we just haven't come back. So we have to do a better job saying it's on the way. I'm proud of our customer service. I don't go to social media very often for many reasons. People will say, well, I put this on Facebook. We need to have a gatekeeper. We need to have one place where we can go look. Because if we've got 8 or 10 different places we have to look, we don't have the resources to do that. That's why here's what you use, because we are checking this every day or every other day. Do we screw up? We do sometimes, absolutely. I like to think we're pretty decent. We're fair. But we've had some situations where people have tried to scam, and then we fight that, But if we're wrong, we sent you the wrong thing, or you got a set where the corners weren't round enough for you or whatever. I like to think we try to do right by everybody. Some people though are like, I got 2 misprinted cards, send me a new set. No, send me pictures, scan the 2 cards and we'll get the replacements to you. I think it's just different because in the past you could talk, you could talk to Verl or whatever.
I like the fact, I like what you said though. I mean, because the more I think about this, the idea of having email, now you have documented conversation. So if I just call up and say blah, 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 and then I never said that. So there is that whole verbal conversation that was between two people. Now it's a he said, she said type of thing. So I kind of coming over to your side on the email now. Now you have some documentation on the conversation about what happened. And if someone says, hey, I ordered blah, 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 now you can go back and say, look, this is what you sent me. So I'm leaning towards that email thing now.
And the other thing is we still take mail orders. So people that are reluctant to put their credit card number on the internet on an online order, they can send us a check or a money order. We'll take a personal check. We're trying to find ways that we think work best for everybody, the fan and APBA, so that we can efficiently, fill your order correctly and get it to you.
John, basketball. I watched Thibault play a game, and when he started that first quarter, his hair was black. He had a svelte build. He was a darling of everyone in Pittsburgh's eye. And by the time that he finished the first 6 minutes, well, he's still a good-looking guy. But any chance of developing a basketball game?
Well, first of all, Thibault, you played 6 minutes?
I played a whole game of 1981 Sixers, I think, Celtics.
Did you actually play that whole game?
The entire game. It took me 10 days. But that's it's never been done before from what I hear. It's I'm the only one that's ever completed one. So
we look at it probably once a year, once every 18 months. Basketball was the first continuous action game that APBA offered.
Right.
And I think the biggest mistake sites made with that game is the genius of the baseball game is not pitch by pitch. It's an at-bat, one dice roll. And basically basketball was not per possession, but, did you dribble it here or whatever. So if you could get a robust game to do it possession by possession, and we played around with some things, but frankly, at the end of the day, when I start feeling comfortable that it will sell, because it has to sell,
right?
Especially the NBA, they go and their players or something, it does something stupid. And I know it's turning off 70% of our customers. But we've got some ideas. We mess around with it. Like I said, we'll change it to us on a possession by possession basis instead of, you got 24 seconds and whatever you want to do with it. Basketball is attractive because we don't make any money selling the game. That's our razor. We make our money on the card sets. That's our razor blades. And the attractive thing about basketball is 360 men's college teams. You could have a 64 tournament women's team set. You got the NBA. You could do. We wouldn't do G League, but you could do some of the European, some of the other foreign, more comparable leagues. So there's a lot of razors you can sell, but you have to create those razor blades,
right?
And you need to. I can't even tell you who's in the finals or who's still playing in the NBA. You need to have a real interest in it so you can make sure that the quality is appropriate.
It's not the Milwaukee Bucks, I'll tell you that.
Hey, I'm from Wisconsin. I know. So we talk about it. I don't mean this any disrespect to any woman that's a mother, but a game is like 2 years. It's sort of like when you have a child. For the first year, your wife is pregnant and all the things that happen to her. And the next year it's trying to get her body back to whatever normal is going to be. And that's the same thing with a game. And it's not nearly the same, please. Don't get me wrong. But it's, playing it, play testing it, coming up with all the processes, working with the printer, and it's a big risk. And some of these video games are so realistic that we'll keep trying it.
You would probably need almost a whole new basketball game, right? Because that old basketball game, Thibault, probably wouldn't work.
No, it would need revamped.
No,
definitely
it's a complete redo.
Yeah.
And, we've got about 20 pages of notes and some draft charts and some other things so we think about it once in a while, but it'd be a big risk.
Yeah.
But we need to get BBW as robust as we want it to be, so it's comparable to BBW before we start adding on something like that. People ask about horse racing. I got several prototypes in my office. There's just not enough razor blades to sell to make. Sites stopped selling horse racing because it didn't make money. And the same thing with the bowling game. It didn't make money. Boxing, we licensed. We did not own it. We licensed it from somebody, and they're on their fourth or fifth licensee. I always kid people about cricket. There's professional cricket coming to North America next year. Who knows?
Yes, there is Major League Cricket.
Down here, there's a local church. All the different youth rec leagues are not run by the local government, but it's a big money raiser for churches. And 3 years ago, they had a kiosk where they were having spring registration for cricket, youth cricket. And I stopped by a couple days later, and they had spots for 300, and they had over 900 kids.
Wow!
And they could find spots for another 300. And any park where they offer softball or youth baseball, there's always cricket matches going on before.
Wow!
So my follow-up question is not cricket. How do you get younger people to play these games? There's no more magazines really to put the ads in and all that. How do you get newer people to try the product?
The APBA life cycle of a fan is you buy the game when you're 7, 8, 9 years old. Talk about baseball.
Right.
Play it. You become a teenager. You discover girls. You don't play it so much. A lot of guys take it to college. Played in the dorm.
I saw it in college, yes.
Played in the house. Depending upon your situation when you graduate, if you're single, you still play it. If you're married, you put it away. When your children get to be about 7 or 8, you introduce it to your kids. And then when you have an empty nest, you pull it back out again. And then when you retire, you're going to play every season. And then we get these massive orders. But it's really just introducing it to kids because it's so playable, especially the baseball game. Mm-hmm. And it's more, our biggest concern and challenge is how the lords of the MLB are not doing us any favors. Mm-hmm. They're not getting a younger audience, these rule changes, whatever. And you need that interest first in baseball by young people, because why are they going to want to be a baseball manager if they have no interest in baseball? We do some things with a couple of youth groups, some boys and girls clubs. There's 4 or 5, 6 folks that we've heard about how they used APBA for various reasons, some teachers, whatever. But print advertising doesn't work.
Right.
When I bought the company, we put an ad, a half-page ad in one of the baseball annuals, Street and Smith. $8,000, got 3 sales, 3 $25 sales. Got a lot of comments saying how great it was to see the ad, but it's got to work.
Right.
It's basically word of mouth. My middle son's football teammates used to have a Madden tournament every Saturday night. One guy in offense, one guy in defense, 4 teams. Everybody throws $5 in. And the same 2 teams were winning every week. So I said one night, these guys were sitting there, they already got beat. I said, here, try this. And it was the baseball game. And they stopped playing Madden and started playing the baseball game. But if there are people smarter than me, have ideas, we're interested because we're scratching our heads.
I think the big thing, like you said, is getting it into their hands, okay? Especially the younger people. Because I got a friend of mine who was probably late 20s, early 30s, and he hurt his knee and he couldn't play hockey. So I brought over a hockey game, not APPA, but I brought over a hockey game and just rolled dice on the table and showed him how to play it. And he couldn't go anywhere. He was laid up. He just had his leg up because, his knee. And he had an absolute blast playing this hockey game that I showed him how. And I don't think he plays it anymore. His knee healed up, and now he's out doing whatever. But, I mean, at the time, he was just like, wow. He goes, I didn't think I could have this much fun rolling dice on a table and playing a sports game. And so it just getting it into people's hands and showing them that board games are not board games from the 70s anymore. That, in my first time, I forget what game I was actually playing. And, I think me and Ron had just become friends at the time. And he's like, hey, why don't you try a cards and dice game? Because I was just playing the PC stuff. His ID Jester stops by. And so I remember rolling a game, and I get done the game, and I was like, I can't believe that I'm rolling dice and looking at cards and maybe looking at a chart or two, and I felt as though I just played a hockey game. And it was... I didn't think it was possible. You see the people playing and it's whatever. But when you do it, it's like, man, this is great. Not only I was rolling the dice, I was writing the scores down, keeping track of the shots. And until you do it, until you actually do it, and then like once you play a game, your eyes open, you're like, holy cow, was that fun. That was so much better than sitting back with a controller and playing a video game. I am involved in this game. I'm rolling the dice. I'm watching my guys succeed and fail with every roll of my dice. And so I think getting it into people's hands, that's the hard thing to do.
Thibault, talk about the tournaments. You've done a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, this what John was saying, getting kids into there. It's not a surprise to see probably, I'd say like at least a few kids, like probably anywhere between like 8 and 15 years old at these tournaments. And they are having a blast. My daughter's played in an APPA tournament. She's had a good time. My son, which is a pretty amazing story, his first game he's ever played against someone other than me was against Vera Lincoln.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, who could say like their first game in APPA ever was against the great Verrill, dearly departed. But these kids have fun, and I want to say one thing about this advertising and board games are not dead among kids. I mean, just at my daughter's middle school up the street, they have like a board games club.
Oh yes,
this is like.
It is a big deal now. Yeah. I mean, you're talking some spreads now for some of these games that take days to play.
Yeah. You go to Barnes and Noble, they have a whole section of actual games. You can just go through Catan or whatever, just games.
Yep.
And so these are not. And I went to a microbrew actually in my area, and they actually have a big shelf there where you actually pull out the like a game you want to play, and these guys are just having fun. They're 20, 30 years old, just playing this board game, drinking their hazy IPA. So it's definitely not dead among the kids. I mean, I don't think that is a good enough excuse. I think it's more like just word of mouth, and like what we're doing here, what you guys are doing, Ron and Dave, with YouTube. This is why I was trying to promote like hockey on my channel and promote Master Baseball. Is I think that's where the kids are maybe looking. Maybe even not YouTube. Maybe we have to probably have to get the Snapchat or like Instagram, those types of things.
I'm not doing any filters. Okay, I've been attacked by a sports banner once. I'm not doing anything with the. I'm not making ducky faces to roll dice. Okay, I'm not doing it.
We were big winners in COVID because people were home and they started saying, "Hey, I wonder if it's still." Is APBA still around? And, then started buying and started sharing. I think the other issue with young people, though, is their schedules. My 10-year-old granddaughter is going to middle school in the fall. She's going to have trombone. She's taking a language course. She's a very good soccer player. And she has soccer practice now 3 nights a week, plus games on weekend, plus homework. That the only free time she has is in the car, being driven somewhere, and then she's usually trying to get her homework done or having a book or a tablet instead in front of them. And it's a lot of them don't have a lot of time where they're sitting at a table or in your room or whatever. Anytime you're home is to grab a quick bite, get whatever you need for the next stop, and when you get home, you're crawling in bed.
All right, here's the big question now, and this goes out to the 4 of us, actually. Okay. I'm going to start with Ron, and then we'll go to Thibault, and we'll finish up with John. We're going to go in that order. So here is the big question, and chat room, feel free to chime in. What is the future of tabletop gaming?
I think whoever figures out how to get the gaming experience on your cell phone is going to be the big winner. I think that's how you do it. I think there are a full generation of people who have played football, especially fantasy, especially daily fantasy, and especially daily fantasy football, who are about to become nostalgic for the Steph Currys, the Tom Bradys, you name it. And I think whoever reaches that market will be playing these games, because kind of like you, Dave, when you threw down the controller, you just couldn't physically handle this anymore. And so people are going to be just as nostalgic for their team that won them $500 on a Sunday as they're going to be for, let's say, the 2016 or 2017 New England Patriots.
I see. Thibault, what do you think? What's the future of tabletop gaming?
You know what? It hasn't gone away yet. Like I was just saying, Monopoly or APBA started, 1951. It's still being sold. So, I think there's always going to be that tactile feel. People, I think, kind of get fatigued by social media, fatigued by screens. They like that look at something, in their hand, maybe feel something. We do have to get the word out. I think we have to go to where the kids are, and I think that's more like even Facebook. My daughter, when she's 14, she laughs at Facebook. They would never go to Facebook. Well, that's where we all are,
That's where all the folks are.
Old book. Yeah, exactly. So we have to find where they are, and you just have to find, they use the Snapchat, the Instagram, whatever social media they are on. Because they want to buy stuff. People hate to be sold. They love to buy stuff. So we can get them on the social media and just get them on a table. You almost have to have an adult that enjoys it too, to kind of show it to them. That's what I found at the tournaments is if you have an adult that's showing it to them, that helps.
Okay. John, what do you think? The future of tabletop gaming?
It's always going to be around. Look how long Monopoly has been around, and Sorry, and Life and Scrabble. But our long-term range is that our sales of board games will probably be about 5% of our total sales. And associated products like card sets versus electronic versions. Right now that number is about 60-40 cards and dice. It'll always be around. I would caution that I don't think you want to change your game, be it whatever, to try to reach a younger generation, because you run the risk of losing other people. that have played it. And it's not just APBA, but, Monopoly has never changed. It's basically the same. If you've got a game-winning concept that attracts people, that's what you want to stick to that. But it's, you look at the shelf space that, for games, they're not necessarily sports simulation games. You've got Dungeons and Dragons that's been around forever, the role-playing games. Mm-hmm. The Canaan series is, the Packer offensive lineman played every Wednesday night. Maybe that's why they were bad last year. But, my daughter-in-law and oldest son play that all the time, and they invite friends over. They're really into board games as well as Twitch and whatever. And when they want to have a real social event, they will pick a board game. Because then you can still drink. If you're playing at Twitch with a controller, you can't hold your drink in your hand. You got to put it somewhere else. So it'll always be there, but it will be definitely a challenge.
I have to agree with Curtis here.
Yeah.
Okay, Curtis says, I'm torn. Sometimes I like it on the screen, and other times I like the tactile experience and manual hand scoring. I feel more connected with the game when offline. And I got to agree with that, because there's times that I like to kick my feet up and I'll just play a quick PC game, and there's other times I want to get in here and roll dice and really get into the hands-on and feel really immersed in it. And I've been playing some non-sports games as well. I've been getting to deck building games, they're called, and I've never played them before. And I play this one on Steam. I think it's called Star Realms, and it's just like a space fighty game where you get your deck of cards and you try to get rid of the bad ones and get new ones, and you buy new cards and you shoot the enemy. I just play myself. I don't play against anybody. But that they sell the board game version of that, and I haven't bought that yet, because I find that particular game, I like to kick back and just click, and I can play it on my iPad, and I can play it on the Steam on the computer. But I have the option of playing on the table. But that particular game, I don't. But there's some games, APBA, one of them. I like to sit and have the cards in my hand and roll the dice and have the chart here, and I do like that. So I'm with Curtis. There's times where it's nice and handy when you're sitting there watching TV, you got the game on, you just pull out the iPad and boom, you can play a game, and it would be great, while I'm sitting there to play a game of APBA on my iPad some night, But there's other times where, I come home from work, like I say, you run the computer all day, I come down here to Studio B, and it's like I got a little table here, I'm rolling dice, and I'm playing the game. So I think it's a little bit of both there. I think you will need to get on to some kind of mobile device. Yep. Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think the board gaming's going away. Especially like you was talking about the D&D, and you go online now, and there's so many channels now that talk about board gaming and adventure games, and there's a lot of solo games now that you can play by yourself and roll dice and flip a card and go into a dungeon and whatever you got to do, or you can play against people. But a lot of those better games also have an online version, so you can actually go online, whether it's in Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia or one of those things there. Sometimes they even have an app, but this one game I play is called One Deck Dungeon, where you roll the dice and you try to go through the dungeon by yourself. I have that cards and dice, and I have it on the computer. I think I even have it on the iPad, so I can play that wherever I am. And I get the digital version, and I get the tabletop versions. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with Curtis that if you are in front of a screen all day at work, you don't want to come home and be in front of a screen because it feels like you're at work still.
Right.
You want a different experience when you're at home.
John, understanding that the days of KB Toys and Toys R Us are done. I mean, the first time I bought a game like this was at a KB Toys. Is it possible? Is it prudent? Have you looked into maybe not necessarily going into the big department stores because of the big load you'd have to do, but there are gaming stores. We have one in town that sells the Magic cards and the Pokemon and the Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, is that something that would be feasible? I mean, obviously you don't want to lose your shirt, but
well, Ron, that's the challenge for us, because our cost of a baseball game, including that box,
right,
is if you are wholesaling something, the retailer wants to buy at 45% of the retail price.
Right.
So they have. I don't come close to covering my cost at 45%.
Right.
And we can do that because of going directly to the customer. We did have a large national chain approach us about for Christmas, and they wanted product in August. They wanted full return privileges, and they'd pay in April. And I just told them they should talk to Bank of America. Basically, they wanted us to be the bank. And,
right.
So and I don't want I was in the large corporate world. I don't want to do that. I don't want to create Milton Bradley. Want to be able to know as many of our fans as I can. I pride myself at the convention that I know everybody's first name. Mm-hmm. I usually know their family situation, where they're from, what bad team they're going to play in the tournament because they play the 2 Mets every year. I like that because then it feels like family. And I think the fans appreciate it too, that people. The best thing for APBA, I believe, is that you offer cards and dice. I don't know if you have a PC or just an internet platform. And it's like a wheel. And the axle is a stat program that you can input stats from whatever platform you're playing on. So that if you are in an airport and your flight's running late or you got there a little early, you can take your phone out and play a game or two, and it goes into your replay. I think that is the way to do it, if you can afford to do it.
Can you play APPA Go on your iPad?
Yeah.
From the website?
On the browser, right?
Okay. All right. The next big question we got is, where's my notes right here? Okay. This actually comes from one of our Patreon questions. Where do you envision APPA in the next 5 to 10 years? And I will add, what is your role going to be in the next 5 or 10 years?
I'll answer the first part. I would hope that within 10 years we have whatever games we're offering all on APPA Go, all being robust games. And the gorilla in this room is sports betting.
That's true.
So if you can do pre-plays,
yeah,
especially if you can do pre-plays, 500 sims in nanoseconds, and it gives you, all the statistical analysis from those games, you can decide, are you going to bet or not, over, under, whatnot. Fantasy baseball, pick your lineup, and people are actually betting on the outcome of virtual games like Madden games in 2000K. So that's the biggest opportunity I see.
John, I had someone that I forget which of our Facebook groups that Dave and I helped run ask this year before opening day, was there a baseball sim out there that could run 1,000 sims just for that reason? He was a bettor and was trying to get an advantage to take advantage of legalized sports betting in his state.
I have a law school classmate who at 21 had a PhD in math and I went to law school, and he lives in Vegas, and his occupation, according to him, is degenerate gambler. And many years ago, I gave him the source code to BBW, and they juiced it up and added some stuff. But he uses that every day in making his betting on baseball. And he's got a 63% over the past 10 years for all bets in all sports using different products like that. So if you can prove the reliability, because you might get some bad people mad at you if they're losing your money because of your game.
Right.
But there's an opportunity out there. but it has to be very, very robust. But, we're going to give it a shot.
All right, so cards and dice.
That has to be mobile, but that definitely has to be mobile because, if it's, let's say it's kickoff 5 minutes before a Boston College game and their best player goes down, you're going to, well, do I bet on that? What's it going to show? And if you've got a reliable tool that you can run, more than one or two sims, you'd want to use it. My role. Recently in a newsletter, several people had sent me emails wondering about how much longer I was going to be involved and what would happen to APBA if I wasn't. The APBA community is going to be fine. The least important person in the APBA community is me. If our community is not buying the products we offer, there's no APBA. It's the support of the APBA community that has sustained and will continue to sustain APBA. I don't know. I'm retired from the large corporate world. Everything is on a 3-year lease, the copy machine, the Pitney Bowes machine, whatever, and that's done on purpose. And we've just extended all those. So I have some more time. It's not work. I enjoy this. And some days it's cleaning the bathroom. It's like I said earlier, we don't play APBA every day, but I enjoy doing this, and it's primarily because of meeting people like Thibault and all the other great APBA fans that we've had the privilege of meeting and becoming friends with many of them. So I have started the process of identifying folks that are interested and are capable of maintaining the legacy and improving the legacy of APBA, and paying a fair price and can afford it, not jumping through the hoops. And I'm not looking for solicitations of interest at all. I've been the biggest factor would be if we ever dispose of it, and maybe one of our kids might be interested in it or whatever, that person will continue to run APBA as it's always been run, and knowing that community comes first, that the company is the least important part of this community.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so as far as
I win the lottery tomorrow, Thibault's in charge.
I was going to ask,
Happily, I would
at the conventions,
do
you have Thibault cleaning toilets at the conventions?
No. We don't do any of that. We've been at the hotel, 10 years is it coming up?
Yeah. 2013 was the first one down there.
And they are great.
It's a great time.
Everybody knows where they're going, what the food is, where we're getting together for our meetings or playing the games or taking over the big table in the lobby that the football guys take over. It's a family reunion where everybody likes everyone. And I can't stress enough, if you're thinking about coming, just come. It doesn't matter. These guys aren't superstar managers, and they're not.
John, give details of where it is, because not everyone might know this.
It is in Alpharetta, Georgia. So you fly into Atlanta if you have to do that, and it's in the northeast of Atlanta.
Okay.
And it's pretty self-contained. Once you get to the hotel, the office is half a mile away. You can take public transportation to within about 5 miles, and then there's hotel transport, so you don't need necessarily to rent a car. I've never stayed in a room, but I guess the rooms are okay, right, Thibault?
Awesome. They're fantastic.
Yeah. Breakfast is included with your room. It starts every year. It starts earlier and earlier. The first year, it was a Friday night banquet, Saturday tournament ends on Sunday. Now guys start coming in on Tuesday. Thursday, we have demonstrations of our non-baseball games in the afternoon. And last year we started APBA Jeopardy. And we're going to do that again. Friday morning is innovations, where members of the community talk about different innovations for any of the sports. Friday afternoon, we have the Home Run Derby. And I like to say that we offer the second best sport trophy after the Stanley Cup. You get a personalized Louisville Slugger with your name, and this one will be 2023 APBA Home Run Derby champ.
Are you showing that on your camera right now?
No, I'm not. I'm at home. I'm not. We have one family where dad won it, and last year their 14-year-old son won it.
Nice.
Using Don Drysdale. And now pitchers are banned. But he had played Drysdale since he was 10. So I kind of grandfathered that. And we had the first year 10 guys, Thibault?
Yeah.
And last year we had 55.
It's a big deal, yeah.
You know, we canceled the convention in 2019 because of COVID. And then in 2020, we pushed it back. This is always the weekend after Father's Day. We pushed it back to August and then started heated up. But our numbers last year were back to the pre-COVID numbers. And, I was corrected. Major League Baseball told us we could not use the phrase home run derby. They licensed it. So we call it clearing the fence. And it's, groups go out for dinner every night. Friday night, like I said, we have a banquet. We do a Q&A between the clearing the fence contest and before people go up to their rooms to get ready for dinner. In some ways, I consider my role as sort of a minor steward in this community. So I try to answer as many questions as openly as I can. But there's some that are inappropriate, and we don't do that. But the group is really good about that. Good way to get feedback. And then Friday night, we'll put some people in the Hall of Fame. Last year, Thibault went in. Wonderful addition. And we've the past few years have had a special guest that we do a Q&A with at the end of the banquet. And nice. Last year was Fritz Light, the former owner of APBA. And for 4 years, I tried to get Fritz to come. And finally, it fit his schedule last year. And he's been a great, great resource and is really enthusiastic to be re-engaged with the community. This year, it's going to be Pete Simonelli. Pete was the director of the first baseball tournament at the first APBA convention, and this is the 50th anniversary of that tournament. Now, we haven't had the convention every one of those 50 years, but and Pete's a good guy. Knows a lot about APBA, is very generous, sharing his knowledge and stories. And then Saturday, it's the tournament, and it runs by itself. You get 10 games. You're guaranteed 10 games of pool play. Usually we have, we're still able to have 8 divisions. And then the winners of the divisions go to the quarters, which are quarters and semis are 2 out of 3. And the finals is a best of 5. And last year's winner was coaching the 2021 Braves. And nice. Beat the 2018 Astros 3 times in the knockout rounds to get it all.
No garbage cans were involved.
We have a T-shirt from the 2019 convention that refers to that incident.
I want to mention about the T-shirts, John. So John gives us a really nice shirt every year too at the convention. And last year, he gave us a nice golf shirt. So I got upgraded the game there. But he has a saying on it, and it actually relates to, because I'm looking at the chat. I'm seeing a lot of our friends over the years on the YouTube chat. It says APBA's more than a game, it's a community. And I know John talks about this a lot, about just the friendships that are built from this game. And I'm thinking of you guys, Dave and Ron, back when you and I first started talking, like around COVID, I started watching Ron like when I was at work, I think in like 2017 or 18. I'm like, wow, who's this guy? We're playing some games here. Like, and then Dave came along and COVID came along. And if you guys remember, you guys would have those fireside chats and we would be talking games every single night on YouTube. Yeah. And this was back when the world was locked down and everybody was just like cocooned up. And we all became friends. And I look at you guys as friends. I look at all these guys in the chat. And when John talks about like the family reunion where you like everybody, and we have a bunch of friends down there. I look at this YouTube community in which you guys, and like every day, if I'm on the bus going to work, I'm listening to Dave play hockey, APPA hockey, and it's just like it's a friend. I could chat with him, I could talk to him, and it's like. It's more than a game. It just became friendships, and that's what I think is really powerful. I'm seeing all these names, everybody commenting. It's just great stuff.
Yep, it is. All right, we got a couple more questions. If you're in the chat room now, if you have questions, now's the time to type them in. We'll get to the chat room. I kind of wanted to do this in order. So if you're in the chat room, I'll try to scroll back, but if you have a question, now's the time to type it in. Even if you have to type it in a second time, it might be easier for me to see. So a couple more questions here before we get to the chat room. Let me see. Now, we did cover the basketball game, John. Someone was asking about that. That's a maybe, right? That's something you're thinking about, right? Cards and dice basketball.
Yeah, it's a maybe is fair, but I don't see anything in the next 2 years.
Okay, and let me see. Another question was you are trying to get football, hockey, soccer over to some kind of a PC version, correct? Like Go or something like that.
It would be Go. It would be on the internet.
Okay.
It'd be online.
Well, I'd love to see a hockey version of that in Go. That would be fantastic.
You want to help us design robust hockey coaches?
I might be able to. I've worked on hockey games before, so maybe it's something I can help out with.
All right.
Let me see. Another question
I know how to reach you.
APPA has golf and soccer. Would you ever consider branching out to other sports like tennis or bowling or something like that?
No. And the primary reason, I'll start with bowling, is I had a job when I was in high school and college where I had to be to work at Saturday morning at 7 and got done about 11 a.m. And I go home and get lunch and figure out what trouble I was going to get into. And I would watch bowling because it was on. I couldn't tell you, Earl Anthony, but I couldn't tell you today who a bowler, what bowler there is. I don't know when they're on TV. Seems like I see them when ESPN on one channel has got, cornhole tournaments and a different one that got bowling or something. It's just not that popular. Horse racing we discussed briefly before. Can anybody here name the winner of the Kentucky Derby from last year?
No.
It is really a very, very niche sport, but it wouldn't justify the investment plus the opportunity cost, because if we offer horse racing, what set that we currently offer do we drop? Because we'll have finite time and resources.
What sport would work, John, you think?
Well, people laugh about cricket, and I'm being a wise ass about that partly. But cricket now is down to, it's not the 5-day event where you go on forever and ever. Is there much of a market for it here in the U.S. now? But if you told me 10 years ago that college football Saturday night games would be on the three major networks, I wouldn't have believed you either. It's probably basketball, but it's just a long way off. There's a lot of risk with it. And again, if you don't add resources, what do you drop? We may expand some of our soccer offerings. We've cut those back. I I'm curious with the World Cup coming to North America in 26, what effect that's going to have.
I need to try the soccer. I don't have the soccer. That's one I need Thibault, do you have
do a video on? Yeah, I might do a video on that soon, Joe Dave. I was actually planning that because I was watching. I've been getting in the MLS and Euros, I think, this year too, and I was going to do a video on that.
World Cup final was probably one of the best games ever played between France and Argentina this year.
Yes,
it was a lot of talk, and I'll tell you what. If you like the hockey game, it's the best part about the soccer game. It's almost like hockey without the line changes.
Oh,
that's how the best way I could describe it. And if you enjoy that shot, save, constant action, that's where they hit you.
Okay. And later in May, we're going to offer the 2001 MLS season. So that'll be the first season we've offered that's really like a great team set or, all-time historical set. And, there's probably more opportunities in soccer with like the Mexican League, some of the Central American, South American leagues. The one of the largest spaces for soccer fans in the United States are Hispanics, but they don't support any U.S. teams. They support the Mexican national team and teams in the domestic Mexican leagues. So we'll try that and see. It's easy to experiment on a season. If it doesn't work, it didn't work. Let's try something else. Dave, I just don't know what other sports are out there that tennis. Part of the problem with tennis and bowling is you can just do it yourself. I don't know if there's that interest in having, Borg and Connor or Borg and McEnroe or whatever. If there's that much of it and doing it in dice, when you go on a video game and do it.
Yeah. I would like to see basketball just so I could have a Maurice Cheeks card. I love Maurice Cheeks.
Yeah, you have Mo Cheeks.
Love that guy. He was awesome.
I'd love to do it just for the old Celtics.
Yeah, yeah. That's all they play is old Celtics.
Yep. Bird and Magic.
Any thoughts on like NASCAR or F1 or anything?
No. Somebody left us, sent us unsolicited a NASCAR game.
Okay.
And we didn't open it. I mean, it's just the risk with getting something unsolicited. Someone else described to us in detail over the phone, but it was like 2 hours and it was a 2-lap race. But if you look at these video games, you can't compete. And especially if you're getting kids, we've got 3 boys and they're all adults now. But we used to play that. And they were just trying to wreck each other and wreck you. And it was so realistic, that you just couldn't compete.
So we're not doing it for Dale. That's understandable.
Another question here from one of our Patreon listeners is, the card size is perfect, but is there any plans, is there any way to increase the font size on the cards? He goes, we got a lot of older eyes now looking at the APPA cards, and some of the font sizes are small.
We'll look at it. I mean, that's why we're sensitive to that issue. That's why we went to the larger manuals when we redid all the packaging.
I mean, that would be a tough rework to rework all the cards. But some of those things, I'm not going to, they are really small. You're trying to fit all that information on there.
Yep, absolutely. And it's like especially the football roster sheets. To get those to a couple pages, you're really, you're using 7, font size 7 for that.
And speaking of football, that was another question to come up in the community here. Is there any thought to going to team sheets for some of the football players? Because, you have all these cards for a football team, and, the front line, you really almost don't need cards for that. Like a team sheet would work for that. And it might even bring down the cost of the season. Has there been any thought for that for football?
Well, Thibault can tell you, we experimented with that 14 and 15, where If you got a generic card, like receivers, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, D-backs, linebackers, tight ends, you would just get a sheet, and it would have their ratings, the numbers, their receiving, whatever, and you would not get a card. And after 2 years, we stopped doing that because people hated it.
Really?
Yeah. They didn't care for it. I mean, we gave them two choices because at the time, people were complaining that we didn't card everybody. Well, why you'd want a card of a tackle who played 2 snaps in the game is I don't understand.
Right.
And other people with what the question you just raised. And so we offered, those were the 2 offerings that year. Jumbo set with everybody carded in the NFL, or a smaller set just with players with unique cards, quarterbacks, running backs, pitchers, kickers. If somebody had a return of a fumble or an interception, punt returners. And then people were like, well, but we need cards for all the receivers. And then so it started just falling apart. But the smaller sets did not sell well at all. And the larger sets, I'll tell you this story. In college, we did the sets where the jumbo set was if you played 3 or more games, you got a card. I got a nasty email from a grandmother of a TCU player who wants to know why she bought that set, especially to see her grandson's card. And he played 1 game.
Yeah.
So we've tried that. We think 50 cards per team is a sweet spot. Gives you a couple kickers. It gives you 2 deep on defense. Some cases, not necessarily that.
Now, how many teams are there now? What are there, like 30 teams?
In the NFL, 32.
So that's going to be 1,500 to 1,600 cards, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's a truckload of cards. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would think, myself, when I play football, it's not that often, but I play a lot of games that have team sheets. And it lists the 2 quarterbacks, starting in the backup, and then the receivers and the running backs. And I can take 2 sheets and play them here in front of me, and I don't have to spread out 22 cards on every play. Yep. So I'm surprised. I would think that might go over better because it would, you wouldn't have to print everything, so it might make the cost of the season a little less, and it would take up a lot less table space if you ganged at least the linemen and maybe the linebackers on one sheet.
No, I agree, but like I said, we tried it, and the community spoke, and the draft league guys want to have a card for everybody on their team. So we try to, we can't please everybody. We're not big enough to offer single teams. Just too big of an inventory issue. But Thibault advised us at the first convention we offered that of improvements to the sheets. Remember that?
Yeah, we
did. They were too long, too wide. Yep. But I think it's just how the community is wired to, they've always had cards. They've always had cards in front of them.
Okay. See, chat here in the chat, APPA Brian. I love APPA baseball since 1974. Has there been any thought given to a smaller footprint for the board game, the results book? Now, I have the result books here. This is the one that Thibault originally sent me. That's the one I used for many years.
Yep.
And then when I bought the game, I get this guy. And then Thibault just sent me this right here. So these are the 3 that I have right now. And you can see, the size here is this big one is pretty big. It's really actually hard to use this one. I have the small tabletop. I got a small desk here. So this one is really difficult to use. So I kind of stick this one because it's nice and small. And this one I'm going to try too. So, is there any thoughts to offer maybe a smaller version of that big book? And I know we just talked about raising the font size, but, is there any...
And that's why we went to the larger version, is people were complaining. One was they just couldn't, it was too small the font. Secondly, with color background and different accenting of different lines, it was harder to read. They just wanted something that was clean and easy to read. And there was more for that. There was one or two people that pushed back on getting away from the 8.5 by 11. But again, it's inventory. We would like to be able to offer the same version in different sizes, but it's inventory because the games we're not ordering in quantities of 20. And then the other thing is kind of gets back to the why we don't take phone orders. Somebody will order the wrong one. This way, there's only one you can order. There's only one you can order.
What if you did some sort of a pre-order, like kind of floated out there? Hey, we're thinking about, going back to a smaller size like this, if we can get 100, 200, 300 orders, we'll go ahead with this thing here and go on a pre-order. So a lot of places do that now. They go on a pre-order, so there's no guarantee that you're going to have this product, but you gauge the interest in that product.
We did that a few years ago when we first started doing college football. And we said, vote now, and the conferences with the two highest vote totals we will offer. And it was the Big Ten and the ACC.
Interesting.
And we started keeping track because I go through every game play-by-play as part of gathering stats and our prep for the card at the end of the year. So I'm not waiting to December to start doing this. I want to be able to do it during the season. And the big reason with the ACC was everybody thought Florida State was going to be in the national championship. They started the season against Alabama, and it was Florida State, Clemson, this. Florida State was a dog. And all these pre-orders we had for the ACC, we got about 10% of them. It wasn't binding. But that's the risk is, and then do you piss off the people that wanted it and you don't offer it because it doesn't reach the number? If we were bigger, we could do these things.
I'd just be interested to see if you said, "Hey, we're thinking about offering this baseball chart book that's going to be scaled down at this size, and this will be the cost of it." And gauge the interest and see and maybe take pre-orders. You know what I mean? And if you get 20 pre-orders and you refund them, I say no, we didn't get enough. But you might get 300. And it might be worth doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway. Another question here from Paul. Any chance we see older soccer seasons, perhaps NASL?
Paul, the biggest issue with older soccer season is the lack of statistics to make accurate cards. And instead of having the stats, you just have anecdotal evidence. And that's not as reliable as stats. We use Who Scored, which is a soccer website, very robust. But they only go back to 2010 going forward. So it's without accurate stats, I wouldn't be comfortable because I don't know what the quality of the cards would be that we were producing.
Okay. Keith asked if you will make APPA pickleball.
No, Keith, that's another sport where it's more fun to play than to play APPA version of it.
Oh, that was really great. I'm trying to see if I have any other.
Well, somebody did wonder about and recommended a catamaran racing game.
Oh, America's Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be interesting.
It comes with the cigars and the champagne, right?
Yeah.
Todd said he's approaching 60, and he needs the bigger book. So, yeah, there's a vote for the bigger book there. I'm trying to see if I have any other questions here in the chat. Ron, do you have any more questions here while I scroll through here?
Not off the top of my head.
I have a question for Dave and Ron.
Okay.
Are you coming to the convention this year?
No.
Probably not. It's hard for me to get time off from work. I'm self-employed. I do want to get to one, though. There's a couple conventions that I do want to get to, and it is on my radar. And having this conversation here tonight now gets me excited to do one of these things. But I will get to one eventually. It just probably won't be this year.
One thing to point out too, Dave, I just saw, I think in the APPA newsletter this week, someone was trying to schedule a Connecticut tournament. these tournaments have really grown. Like, when you go to these tournaments, like there's one in Pittsburgh, which has it's almost as big as the national. I mean, they get about 60 guys in there, run by the Scholes brothers. And you get a feel for the APPA convention there. So that for like one day, you got it's pretty a wild experience. I mean, you have like 60 guys in a room that enjoy cards and dice sports. That when we're all in our silos here playing these games, to be in a room to be able to talk to guys and talk about the experience and play against them, that you almost get the convention experience. If you can't make it to Atlanta, try to hit one of those.
And the one Thibault's talking about is a planned one for Massachusetts in 24. He's gauging interest now, but there's almost like the PGA Tour, a schedule where everybody tries to claim their own weekend, and it's usually about the same time frame. The Schultz's brother tournament is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a memorial to their mother.
Oh, nice.
Who loved the idea of hearing the dice rolls because she knew her sons were home and safe.
Nice, yeah. One in Massachusetts or New England area. If it's within a couple hours of me, I can probably make that.
Neither my wife or I drive, so it'd be really, really difficult to get to.
See, Todd asked about the basketball game. We talked about that, Todd. There's he's thinking about it, but probably not in the next couple of years. But basketball is on the radar potentially in the future. APPA Chatter asks, will there be cards for LIV golf or just PGA? That's a good question.
Probably include both, since the live golfers are playing in the majors.
That would be interesting.
We have the European players that play on the PGA Tour. We include their European Tour stats in their card.
All righty. Let's see. I do have one last hard-hitting question for you, John.
All right.
All righty. What has been the most rewarding thing about APPA, and what has been maybe the least favorite, not so fun thing about being part of APPA?
Well, let me tell you a story that this is like 0.5% of the people. Is when we were taking phone orders, and this is just an example. And every morning, there's voice messages. Where's my order? Where's my order? And then one day he used the magic word, and I got women answering the phone, and I use that word, but not ever in a business setting. And not in front of women, ever. So I called him because that's just inappropriate. And I got his wife, and I asked if he was there. She says no. And I told her who I was. And, I said, he just can't use those words. And she goes, well, what did he say? I go, she goes, he swears like a sailor. I know that. So I said, he wants to know where his effing cards are. And the wife, this woman says, he'll get the effing cards when he finishes painting the effing bathroom. I have there is silence. And I said, does he know that? And click. But the best thing by far is...
That's awesome.
The people you meet and the generosity of this community. And Charlie Fauché, who unfortunately is no longer with us, this wonderful, wonderful man, comes in our office one day, and he's using APBA cards to teach probability, and he's doing some, making some APBA compatible Negro League team sets. And he said, can I do this? I said, because whatever was left was going to the Negro League Museum. And I said, sure. And, he never asked for anything, but we helped him out. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. But Charlie was teaching at this alternative high school up in Dalton, Georgia. And one time he comes in, and I go, hey, why don't you, bring like a half dozen of your kids down for the convention? We'll put them in the tournament. And he says, John, I'd love to, but I can't. I said, why? He says, they're all on ankle monitors and they can't leave the county. That's how all tournaments go. But the generosity of this community to each other, the friendship, I mean, it's a privilege how they've accepted me in their community. And like, you ever going through Atlanta? Give me a call. Let us know. And even if it's outside hours, come over. I warn you, if you end up sitting on the couch in my office, you're probably going to end up doing something for us, like John Aslan doing this week in APBA. But it's the people. It is, I've met wonderful people.
Sure you have.
And what this game means to these people is just humbling.
John, I did think of another question. Did you ever meet Seitz, the guy who...
I did not. I met Brett Musburger.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Does Brent play?
Not as much anymore now that he can do his gambling passion openly. But he used to come,
He's looking live at his table.
I think it'd be fun to play a game with him. You are looking live at Wrigley Field.
Being in Atlanta, guys that are interested in this, like when Musburger had a game in Athens, at Georgia game when he was doing the SEC at the end with Jesse Palmer.
Okay.
He would just drop in on usually Wednesday or Thursday, dragging Palmer with him, who wanted nothing to do with it. But it's,
because Jesse was a bachelor.
Daryl Evans, we have an personalized autograph picture from him where he says he has 414 home runs, which compared to the Strat guys, there's 3 of them, but they don't have nearly that many home runs. Evans said that when he was in the big leagues, when they would see a new pitcher, they go check out his APBA card if they had never seen him. To help him, pretty scout. So
who was it? Was it Milt Pappas's kid who did Thibault every American League season from 46 forward in BBW?
I'm not sure, but I know Pappas played. Pappas himself probably taught him.
Yeah.
His son's name is Steve. He plays a lot. Nice guy.
John, is there any thoughts in the hockey to add any more WHA seasons or even some Olympics?
Probably not the WHA. The one we did has not sold very well at all. We still have some of the first print run. The challenge with the Olympic sets is there's not enough data points in the actual tournament to have it based on, the 6 or 8 games in the tournament. So we would include, the NHL guys, we just include the most recent season we had carded. But the European guys who aren't playing in the NHL, trying to come up with something that's, again, accurate and realistic based on, their stats is the challenge.
Okay.
Well, we continue to tinker. I mean, we got a lot of stuff that we've never offered that we've made and then just played around with it and just weren't comfortable offering it because of accuracy or other issues.
When you and Thibault talk about the APPA community, that's kind of what we have here with the Digital to Dice show. Of course, you get your fuddy-duddies. I mean, they're just going to be there, you know what I mean? And you got the people that, whatever. But 99.9% of the people that we interact with here on the show, it makes it all worth it for what we do here, and that's why we've been going 4 years strong is because of the community around us. And It just mimics what you were talking about with APPA. We met some great people. We went through a stretch there not that long ago that we were getting emails and texts and Facebook messages every day about just found the show and I'm going back to listen to episode 1 and this is great and I love what you talk about and how you have people on. So, I echo those thoughts there about community here.
Oh, it's huge.
It's just, what you got with APPA, what we got here. And I will say, I play a ton of games, and I do. And I don't pick sides. I play APPA, I play Strat, I play games, I play Downey games. You name it, I play it. It all depends what mood I'm in that day. Mm-hmm. And there's sometimes I sit down and for 2 weeks straight, I play this one game and nothing else, And then you find something else to play. A new project comes up and you play something else. And sometimes it's PC, sometimes it's tabletop. And I just, like I say, I enjoy them all. I enjoy them all. And that's what makes it fun for me is I don't need to pick a side here because I like them all. And if there's a game I don't like, then I just kind of don't play it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And no, PJ, I'm not singling you out as a fuddy-duddy.
All these games have strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And I don't look at it as a zero-sum game where if you spend money on somebody else, that's money you would have spent on APBA necessarily. I mean, we all fit different needs or different interests. Dave, I want to go back to your previous question about the Olympic teams or the WHA teams. When hockey is on Go, we would offer those seasons for Go only.
Okay.
Like the plan is with baseball, we're working on a project that when it's successful, we'll start offering non-MLB seasons, but just as an APBA Go file. So we don't have the inventory, and we don't have to rely on UPS or USPS to get the product to the customer. It's just they decide to do that. So for some of these, that will be the answer for some of these, I don't want to call them minor seasons by any means, but
off the beaten path. They're off the beaten path.
Where the interest isn't as strong.
Yeah.
Are we talking actual minor league seasons or Japanese league seasons or?
All of them.
Okay.
All of them. Maybe even college. Korea.
I like that. I like the fact that, at some point I could play APPA hockey on my computer, but I'm still going to be playing it on my tabletop. Mm-hmm. I really am. I really am. And you talk about community. I mean, guys that we have right here, Thibault and Ron, they were instrumental in showing me how to play some of these games. Ron showed me how to play some of the computer games that I have. It was Thibault who not only sent me the hockey game. Thibault sent me the baseball. APPA sent me the hockey game. I got it. I got the new version. I was okay with it, but then Thibault did a couple of videos that touched on a couple of the things that I was having problems with, and it was his video that just pushed me over the edge. Yeah. And I saw that, and then there's like, okay, now I can go. That hurdle I hit is gone now. Now that I saw somebody play it in the videos there. So again, it's Thibault didn't have to do the videos, and he did. And I know he did one or two of them just for me. I know he did because I was big into the hockey. He's like, Dave, I want you to play the hockey, and I know you're having some problems with it, so I'm going to show you here. And he did it, and they come out pretty good. So, like I said, community really helps me personally. Yes.
And that's Thibault is a wonderful example of the generosity of the APBA community. We don't eat our young; we embrace them.
Awesome.
All righty. Okay, before we go here, before we let John go, any more questions here in the chat room? I think I've gone through everything I can go through here. This has been a fun time. Let me tell you, it's been a fun time, John. I appreciate you coming.
I appreciate you guys inviting me and taking the time. I hope I, did not disappoint you in any way.
You passed the audition. John, is there an APBA gaming moment that sticks out for you? A walk-off homer or whatever from days of yore?
Couple years ago, I was on the phone with Jim Shea, who's a customer in Southern California. And Shea was he's either doing a 57 or 58 football replay. And it was Philadelphia and Washington. And he was like, there's just a few minutes left in the game. And I said, he asked me if he should kick a field goal or something. I said, I'll coach that team. You coach the other team. And the last play of the game, we got the ball. It's 3rd and forever. And, he says, I'm in prevent. And who the hell was the running back? I had the Redskins. And I just called the dive. And he rolled the dice, and it said touchdown penalty, and the penalty was against the bad guys, and we won on a 60-yard touchdown.
That's
wow.
And
That's awesome.
Shay said, boy, you're really smart. And I go, I bought APBA, remember?
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great. It is amazing and I talked about this earlier, when you roll the dice and look at the cards, how things can happen, and you feel like you're watching the game, and you get the ebbs and the flows, and it's just, you got one team that just goes cold, and they can't do anything right, and the other team starts stomping. Then all of a sudden, that stops, and the other team comes back, and you have a fantastic finish. Yes. And that goes for a lot of these games, not just APPA, that I've played, and it's just... you get done and you're just like
magical though with a 6-6.
Yeah, it's just
you know that there's nothing ever bad unless you're coaching the other team.
It's just amazing how many times I've played these games and I've had these finishes, and it's just how do they do this? And I think we did a whole show on how do they do this, because I play these games, and even the quick play games sometimes will come out of nowhere with something very crazy, but it's like you played and it's like, holy cow. How did that happen? How did these games do it where I felt like I really watched this game in real life?
One of my concerns when we offered hockey is I love playoff hockey. I don't think there's a better 6 weeks of sports than playoff hockey. But, that excitement when a rush starts, you're breaking out your defense end or what. And I always wondered if our hockey game recreated that. And, has Greg Wells been a guest on your show?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Greg is big time. He's been a great friend of the company, much less the community. And Greg told me one time, I asked him that because he plays a lot of hockey. He goes, your hockey game is the most exciting game you have. It's as exciting as real hockey. And I was glad to hear that and proud that we're offering a game that, tries to match the brilliance and the excitement of especially playoff hockey. There's nothing better, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, we'll have to have him on. I just made a note on that, But
we've had Mark Zarb on before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Mark on. Yeah. We talked a lot of hockey.
And we really are overdue in having Mr. Barath on as well.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be a great show. You get both those guys on. Greg Wells, he's a Hall of Famer also, I want to mention. Guy knows, he wrote for the APPA Journal back in the day when it was a print publication, and the guy's mind's amazing, just how much he knows about the strategy and the football. I mean, if you're into APPA football, it'd be great to have him on the show.
Yeah.
Wells is the Belichick of APPA.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. When did the master baseball game come into play?
You can help me out here, Thibault.
76.
76?
That long ago, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Seitz' answer. He wanted something a little more robust also with the left-right splits, and it's evolved really nicely.
And the stolen base, that was a big complaint. Why can't we call our own steals?
Right, the rare plays, 2 more rare plays too, and you guys mentioned something earlier about the BBW download. I was thinking about it because we get a lot of guys asking about the master game. They play basic. They're interested in the master game. BBW is like a quasi port of the master game. I mean, his original format when it was DOS, it was a direct port, but now it's still a port of the master game. So if you buy BBW on the download, you can actually get the feel for the master game because you get a lot of the decision making. Like, do you want to send the guy to third? Do you want to send the trail runner? Do you want to steal here? And you get the rare plays, you get the ballpark effects, and that's all in that BBW. So if you want to try without adding up the hit values and things, give the BBW a try. And
you've done a bunch of videos teaching the master game recently.
Yeah, it's tremendous. It's the best, in my opinion, the best sports simulation that you could possibly buy with your money. There's a lot out there, but that's in my opinion. It's got a lot of the nuances. Like, I was just playing with the Replay Gamer. We're doing a session with a couple 79 teams on his channel.
Yeah, we had him on a few weeks ago as well.
Yeah, he's really enjoying it because he's a real baseball guy. And if you're really into the nuances, like the cat and mouse of the pitcher and the guy on first, and then he's also the cat and mouse of the batter, maybe the cat and mouse of the guy on second. Master Game captures a lot of that.
Oh, he's going to love that. Yeah, we had him on the show, and he's not a fan of the new rules. He's like, you should be able to throw over to first base 100 times. He goes, that's part of the game. So he's going old school with that, so I can see how he would like that. Hey, Louis brings up a point here. I believe the lefty-righty splits were not added to the Master Game until 93. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Because before that, it was just the single characteristics where it always helped the pitcher. There was one set. If the righty, it would help the pitcher. Lefty would help the pitcher. Switch hitters, there was no change. It was just how the cards were baked. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the lefty-righty with the more data, like someone mentioned earlier about data points. Mm-hmm. I think that probably where they had maybe more data available at that point.
Okay. One last comment here before we wrap up. APPA Brian once played the 1951 shot heard around the world game, where the dice rolls and the events of the night played the way they happened in the real game. Wow. Was so moved with joy, could hardly finish the video. And that's why we play. That's why we play, is because sometimes you recreate those things, and it's amazing how they recreate in a tabletop. And other times you get a little different result, and that's what makes it fun too. Is and like Ron says, once you start rolling the dice, it's all fictional. It really is.
Yeah. Well, is it, or is your reality the real reality?
I thought about that too, John.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's like what my wife says. She's like, I talk about APBA. Yeah, she barely tolerates it, and she. Every time I say, "Oh boy, you know what? Kevin Moss, the anger, Don Mattingly hit like a 3-1 shot." It's like, it's not real. Like, those guys are not real. I'm like, yeah, they are real guys. He's just coaching Toronto now. But
Curtis chimes in again. He goes, I like being a spectator of the game, so I appreciate the homegrown rules and mods that are easy to implement with APPA. Yep, I like that too. That's what I liked about the APPA baseball. So I could just sit there and just enjoy and play it out, and I don't have to make too many decisions in the game. But there's some to make, infield in, and I'm a bunt guy. All the time. I love my bunting. I'm a small ball guy.
I'm telling you, you're going to love it. If you play 19-8, you're going to love it.
Yeah,
you really are.
I think I bought the book.
That is your era of baseball right there.
What was the book? Crazy 08 or something like that?
Crazy 08, yeah.
Yeah, I bought that book. I haven't read it. I'm going to read that before I play 1908. I will. But anyway. All right, we're going to wrap things up here. John, stick around for 1 second after we sign off so we can say goodbye properly. But we want to thank our guests. We've had a terrific APPA chat tonight going on. We were live on YouTube tonight. This will also be part of episode 181 of the Digital to Dice podcast, where we had Gilles Thibault on, as well as John Herson. Thank you so much, guys, for being on. Thibault, thanks for coming on again, really.
Anytime. I love talking to you guys. You guys are like my brothers, so just like the APPA community down there in Atlanta,
Yeah, and we will meet up at some point. We will meet up, whether it's here or there somewhere. We'll have to get that squared away. And John, again, thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much,
and answering all the questions that we had.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I want to thank everybody that sat in on this, submitted your questions, or are interested in APBA.
All righty. So, I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And you've been listening to the Digital to Dice podcast. Way to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE. Send us a text on the Dice line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, the ever-growing Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
That's how we end all our shows.
Very good.